Hello, One Stars and fellow YouTubians. Thank you for joining me tonight. Tonight we have Ginette with us. Welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I am a mom, first of all, of two little kids, and they keep me busy as ever. And I'm a wife and a new dog mom. I have a puppy. I just got a puppy first time in my life, so that's exciting. And besides that, I am a medium and I'm a channeler. And so I communicate with the other side. And I've been doing mediumship readings for over a decade now, and doing a lot more work in sharing stories of consciousness, the messages from the guides that I channel, and bringing that forward to a platform called avalonspirit.com, where it just allows people access to pathways to consciousness. So that's kind of what I do. And the reason why I am doing that more outwardly now is because when was this? In August 2019, I had the experience of having a NDE, a near-death experience, in which I got to cross over to the other side and have the opportunity if I wanted to go or like stay there or come back. And I vividly remember, and I was just talking to my husband about it again this morning, and I decided to come back. And one of the things about me coming back was that I was going to start speaking up and speaking out about the messages that I share from them. And the biggest piece is the value of choice that we have on this planet. So that's kind of the spiel. We've got the mom side, the regular lady running around, and then the spiritual side that's connected into the higher realms, and it's the juggling of those.
I'm a mom as well, so I completely get the whole juggling being a mom. My kids are grown up. They don't live at home anymore. However, the juggling mom hasn't changed for me as of yet.
You can imagine.
Yeah, and I have one in BC and one in Ontario. So I'm juggling at a distance, which makes it even harder because they're not at home under my wings anymore.
You can imagine. And I hear that from a lot of moms. They're like, okay, it's hard now because mine are 7 and almost 9. But you're right, they are under my wing. And as much as that's really busy, they're still under my wings. Like they have years, and then they're not out of the house. So I'm trying to keep that in mind because, yeah, I can only imagine what it's like for you when they're at some distance.
You know what? It's a journey like anything else, and it's not like it happens overnight. So you have so much time to prepare for that. It's just it's a different way of nurturing and a different way of protecting. And
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. Do you find though that the one blessing with the mom aspect I find is it's like a tether, and I mean that in a good way. Like I'm talking about a good tether, but it pulls me down because I think if I wasn't being a parent right now, I would be so far off in other galaxies or cosmos that I wouldn't be rooted anywhere on the planet. And so my kids, when they want a snack, or they're like, Mom, you got to drive me to dance. Like that's an instant tether back to 3D world. And it's helpful, I find.
I agree with you 100% on that, because even with them being outside of the home, I do a lot of astral traveling and intergalactic, running around. So if it wasn't for them, I probably would stay out there more. There's not as much drama.
I know. It is drama free. Oh my gosh, is it ever? And that's what I really noticed when I was on the other side. So when I got the opportunity, and I'll explain this a little bit actually before I tell the story. So being a medium, I find I have had opportunities to speak to spirits on the other side, or even in visions of my own or astral travels of my own, are a certain way of communicating and experiencing. But there was something significantly different about literally being on the other side. Like I compare it to, I could tell you all about Egypt. Say, I could show you videos. I could do virtual reality and give you the goggles. I could give you the music and the food, and you could know everything about it. But until you step feet on the ground in the temples, it's just different, right? It's just more visceral. And so the experience on the other side was just so much more visceral. It was just, it was this undeniable experience on the other side. And so this was really valuable and everything, but the desire to come back was even that much more, right? Like the desire to be here and present in 3D was that much more, right? But what I've really found is that the pull to the energies of the other side are so strong and constant that, like, it's not a matter of wanting to end my life and go there, but it's just so blissful and it's so harmonious and it's no drama. Everything is in harmony there. It's this harmonious, non-excess type of energy.
I know. And it's like you understand and everything makes sense. And I've had friends say, well, have you asked the universe, blah, blah, blah. And I've said, no, because you don't ask questions when you're out there. You know everything.
Wow,
like
right?
You don't think to ask questions because all of that knowledge is right there. You have access to everything. And that's not what's important when you're out there.
No, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very true. And so it's funny too, because even navigating that, and kind of like we were talking about before we started, is so you take those understandings that right? The peace and the harmony and the balance that is in the higher realms. And then you come back to the self that is you here in 3D, that's maybe running around hectic and this, and the two don't really jive, right? And then you think to yourself like, well, what the heck? I should know better because I get it. I can apply it here. And you're like, ugh, right? And then you find yourself on this roller coaster of energies, especially when the universe is energetically crazy.
Well,
right?
Yeah. And I mean, especially when I'm lazy. So when I astral travel, the universe will say, okay, now write this down. As soon as you get back, write this down. And I'm like, I won't forget. And the universe is like, write it down. Yeah. And I always say I won't forget. And I lay there in bed and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I'm not going to forget this. Yeah. And then I go back to sleep and I wake up in the morning and I'm like, I know there's something, but I can't remember. However, I remember the whole conversation with the universe saying, write it down or you'll forget it. Yeah. But I never, ever, ever want to leave that comfort zone and pick up the pen and write it down, which I really have to start.
But it's true though. It's kind of jolting almost, right? Like it's hard landing back in 3D. And again, that's not putting anything down on 3D. Like 3D world has its own highs and lows and whatever. There's a reason we're all here, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, it's just there's no limitation in those higher realms in terms of freedom of expression and feeling and thought and vision.
And it all happens at once. Wow. Simultaneously. And it's, hi, Lori. Hi, Barbara. Thanks for joining us. And it's blissful. Like you said, it's blissful.
Yeah.
I feel that there are no words in the English language to actually explain what it is. I wish I could touch people and say, here, feel it.
Right? I think it's yeah. There are no words. Words is like the most limiting thing we have, actually.
Yeah.
Music is closer to explaining the sensation of an experience than words half the time, unless you're just a really amazing wordsmith. And there are some out there. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. I 100% agree with that statement.
Well, and that's another, in my dreams, I don't speak. We're all telepathic. Even as a child, we never, ever, ever spoke in my dreams. And when I travel, we don't communicate verbally. Everything it's just a knowing. There's no need for words. It's all knowing and emotions. And I mean, you travel as well. So where I'm coming from. There's just no way to explain it.
Absolutely. And so when you travel, are you going to like different planets or galaxies and dimensions, like different beings, or are you usually with kind of the same group, like your core group?
It depends, because when I go out there, and that's how Tea with the Universe came to be, because since I was a child, I would go out and have tea with the universe. We would sit on this grassy knoll out there, and she would brief me on intergalactic news, I guess, what's going on out in different realms and all over the place. So the way it works for me is if I'm sitting there and having tea with the universe, we can just pull in whichever thing we want instead of, I travel as well, but it's a lot easier to just pull in whatever it is as opposed to going there. So the best way for me to explain it, and I have, is, you know, it's so large, yet it's so small. Like we think of it as being, it's so vast, yet so contained. So it's so easy to just say, oh, we want to go to this dimension. It's 900 million light years away. Well, let's just grab it and bring it to us.
That's awesome. Great, right? Like that choice and being able to bring it forward versus having to go, in a sense. I like that. Yeah.
And what about you?
Oh man, for me, it varies. I haven't quite figured out the pattern yet. For me, it varies. So lately, I seem to be hurling through space. Literally, I feel like I'm exploding through space, and I'm seeing stars and galaxies moving past, and then I kind of land somewhere. Sometimes I understand where I am, and other times it's just somewhere. Like it's not even like an Earth-like ground I'm standing on. It's just a space, right, where I'm communicating with different beings. So sometimes it's more tangible, sometimes not. But lately, again, it's just I go hurling through time and space at some point, and I can feel it come on the nights it's going to happen. And I remember the first time it happened to me was, maybe like 15 years ago. I was laying there in bed before I had a better understanding of everything, and I felt like something was being pulled out of my face. I remember this sensation. It was like something was being pulled out of my face, like an energy. And I was like, what is that? Right? I sat up and I was like, what the heck was that? And then I was like, wait a minute. No, come back. I want to know what that was. And it came back like a year later, I think. And again, that same feeling, but now I can kind of recognize it starts with like almost like a tingle over my face. And then literally it's like my spirit shoots out, which was that pull I was feeling before, shoots out and just like hurls into space to land somewhere and gain some sort of insight, which is usually really interesting. But
that's so cool for me. Now, I mean, I just know like I'm gone in the snap. It takes, there's no preparing, there's no waiting for it to happen. It's boom. But when it used to happen, I would get the tingles, but not being pulled out of my face. My arms and legs would stretch like elastics, and then they would let it go and they would twing back and hit me. And then they would stretch, and it would be the elastic would pull as far as it could and then let go and twing back. And it was like I was being pulled out and then pushed back in. And then I would feel myself leaving. And the way it started was I would just hover above myself and I could see myself laying in bed. And then I would, eventually leave my house and then go to friends' houses. And then now I go wherever. And I agree with you, like that speed now is unreal. There are times when I feel like I'm actually going to vomit because I'm in that vortex and it's so fast. And there's times, especially now, where when I'm there, it's familiar. But when I wake up, I have no clue where I was.
Yeah.
So, hi, Katrina. Hi, Brian. Brian is wondering, can you control it or does it take you where it wants?
Oh, good question. It depends. So for me, there's times where I can use that energy and go somewhere. Like say if I wanted to meet with my council, as I would call them, I could go to a place to meet them. But other times they will take me somewhere. So I would say it's a bit of both, and it depends. Sometimes it's of my control. Other times it's just happening. And there's sometimes if I don't want to go, I can stop it. Other times it's like, sorry, plane's already moving.
It's so difficult. I agree with you because there's times where I don't want to go and I'm gone and then I'm frustrated. Yeah. And there's times where I want to go and it's like, come, I want. And they don't.
How about, okay, here's a question for you, and I'm loving this topic because this is the really fun stuff. How about for you? Do you find that, so that's when you're like sleeping or ready to be in a safe space. Do you find sometimes you get the pull so hard on you when you're in waking state and needing to do something like say at the grocery store or making
Driving.
dinner? Sudden, yeah. And it pulls you so hard and you're kind of like, oh no, right? It's like starting to go and you have to work so hard to come back to right now. Do you get that?
Had to pull over on the side of the Henday,
Did
literally,
you?
and park on the side of the Henday and fight it. I had to, it was like, no, you can't, no. And it was fighting and fighting and fighting. And I don't know who won, but I know that my drive home from work normally took me 40 minutes and it took me under 5 minutes that day.
Wow.
So
yeah,
I feel I don't remember leaving, but I also don't remember driving home.
crazy.
Yeah.
You know, I had one other driving one, and this one always makes me laugh. Is I was driving in the States. I was going to the States to pick up my parents because they were flying in from somewhere south, and it's cheaper where we are for them to fly in across the border and me just pick them up. So it's about like a 45-minute jaunt for me to go down. Anyways, I was driving, and I felt that pull come on, and I had my son in the car, and he was like 2 at that time. I'm driving, and all of a sudden the pull yards me outside my car, and I look inside my window, and I'm driving. And I'm like looking at myself driving the car, and I was like, oh no, not happening. And then was like back in the car. And I remember I was like, what the heck was that? And I got so frustrated. I was like, you guys can't do that when I'm driving. Like,
no, it's not when we're driving. So another question for you.
Yeah.
Are you ever invisible?
Like in the astral?
No, here. Like, can you ever be present, yet people don't see you and like you're just invisible? You're unseen to people around you.
Okay, so the closest experience I could say to that is I have, on a couple occasions, astral traveled my consciousness to see somebody in present day, but I was sitting in my living room, but I could see where they were as I was right behind them. So then technically, yes, but I think that's only happened on a couple of occasions. Yeah. How about you?
I've had it happen where I've been at events where people have introduced me, the people that I've gone with that can see me, and introduced me to people, and people, they stared right through me. Wow. And didn't acknowledge me standing there or anything. And I had 2 of my girlfriends on one occasion just look at me and say, I don't know why they're ignoring you. And I was like, I don't know. And then at the end of the event that we were at, because I sat in front of them the whole event, my girlfriend went to introduce me at the end, and they were like, oh, when did you get here?
No way.
And we were like, I was here the whole time. I sat in front of you. So yeah, that's happened at least 3 times that I can think of in my lifetime.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wonder if that has to do with any of the, and I don't know the answer to this, but I wonder if that has to do with any merging timelines, or like, you know, how it's so fragments, and maybe they're in one timeline in a sense at the same event, but you're not in that one, that they're more present.
I find that happens. I find there's timeline crossovers a lot for me. A lot, because I'll remember events and things that have happened and talk to people about it, and they will say, no, actually, no.
No way, hey?
Yeah, it happens very, very frequently for me.
Interesting. Have you done a lot of work on time travel? Like just like kind of work? Like diving into it and I'm trying to understand it. Like I haven't done a ton on diving into time travel. I'm just kind of getting into that right now. So I don't have a lot to say on it. I'm just curious though, from your experiences, if you have kind of gone down that rabbit's hole.
Not so much as in reading books or watching movies or documentaries or anything, because 99% of my knowledge comes from being out there and traveling and having these conversations with the universe.
Yeah, right.
So there's a lot of times where, for Brian and I will be watching a documentary or something, or watching something, and just out of the blue, I will say, that's not like that. They're wrong. And he'll look at me and I'll be like, I don't know why I said that. I just know that it's wrong. So, yeah. And Barbara would like to know, she said, I know I have a gift. How do I work with it?
So Barbara, are you fully aware of what your gift, like what you would call it? Like, say it was clairvoyance. Are you aware of what it is? I can't see the.
Yeah, I don't know why they don't show up.
Okay.
I'm just waiting for her to respond. Hi, Heather. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, so we'll just wait for her to respond. And Brian said, yeah, we were watching one movie about cryogenics, and they had said something about it. And I said, that is absolutely not how cryogenics works. And he looked at me and he said, and how do you know? And I said, I think I said something like, I remember. And he was like, okay, all right then.
He's like, we'll leave it right there.
That's
fine. That's funny. I know, it's amazing sometimes the things that you can bring back without really understanding why, and they just filter in and you wonder where it comes from. And sometimes to even try and figure out where it comes from is just not worth it. Right? It's just like, well, it's just in there.
Yes. So, on that note, have you ever remembered something you didn't know you forgot?
Have I ever remembered something I didn't know I forgot? You know, I think I've only had that happen in like stories of like past events or something like that. Nothing overly. Actually, no, there is one time. So I did a presentation in university, and this is going to make me sound really goofy, but I'm going to go for it. A presentation in university. It was a communications class, and I was talking about the archipelago of some place. I couldn't remember, the series of islands. And I had known the word, but for some reason I forgot the word and kept calling it an archipelago instead of archipelago. I kept calling it archipelago through my whole presentation. I'm talking about it, repeating it. And nobody once told me it was wrong until about a couple of years later. I was watching a show and they were saying archipelago of whatever. And then I realized that I'd said it wrong the whole presentation and nobody said anything, but I should have known better because I knew it before. So that would be my one example.
That happens.
Seriously. Yeah, whole presentation. Solo presentation too.
Right? Oh, hi, Christine. Hi, Ryan. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, Katrina, absolutely. Deja vu. I have those all the time. Glitches in the matrix.
Oh, yes. I've been having that the last couple of weeks. I've been jumping to 2 days ahead of time and then being back at where I'm at and then not knowing what day it is. Like,
yes.
No, it's Thursday. And not just like the normal kind, but like truly being in Thursday for a couple days. And then I finally get to Thursday and I'm like, no, I already did. Yeah, I definitely did this. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that feeling quite well. And, you know, it's happened to me many times, yet every time it happens, I still sit there in awe saying, really? I've done this. Like, it still catches me by surprise. And I always get that feeling every single time, like, oh, we're doing this again.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so amazing.
It is, you know, and I think the more that we have conversations about stuff that is outside the box, like what you're doing here with your show, with such a beautiful open topic to the universe, like whatever comes is great, because the more people that start to hear things like this move through their consciousness helps to simply open their minds to something more, whatever it may be. And it doesn't have to be that they agree with astral travel or whatever, but those conversations are not so foreign. And so there's more like permeability in their ability to move and evolve and grow. Right. I think that's more people are having conversations now. And I find that very exciting.
So do I. And it's amazing. So many people are open to this now. And I love it. And my sister just posted, she was like, I skipped a whole year twice, which is true.
Really?
Twice I missed a whole year of my life. And if I think back, there are so many years that I don't even remember. And then I'll remember things and it's like, that couldn't have happened in this time frame because there's only so many months in that time frame. And what I'm talking about is, 3 years crammed into 6 months. And I'll sit there and it'll almost drive me insane. And Brian and I will talk about it often and he'll say, clearly it's, different timelines crossing. So just breathe and let it go because it drives me insane. And Brian, sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, Brian just commented like an online class I was taking once as well. I was sitting here taking the class and I had notes written down. And all of a sudden I looked up at the screen and he was talking about everything I had written down. So I called Brian in here. I was like, come here. And he came in. I was on mute. And I was like, I'm going to repeat exactly what he's going to say. And I was repeating exactly what he was saying. I was like, I just did this. And he said, well, did you maybe take it before? And I was like, it's live. I'm like, look at my notes. I just took this course. Like, what is going on? I just finished it like 10 minutes ago. And we're only a half an hour in. There's still an hour to go.
Amazing.
Yeah. So
I love that. And that makes sense though, because and I can imagine how this will be for you, because when I was talking to my guides after December 21st, and we really shifted into this higher timeline, they said the amount of change and transformation we're going to see on the planet in the next 4 years, so this was 2020, so 2020 to 2024, is equal to what changed and shifted in 100 years.
I know.
100 into 4. And so if we're doing 100 into 4, can you imagine how much you must be jumping back and forth a bazillion different timelines?
I guess. Yeah, that makes sense.
Wow.
I'm all over the place.
You are. Seriously. That's awesome though.
So Barbara got back to us. She said, dreams between 3 and 6 a.m., they all come true, but people gravitate towards her with their stories, so many emotions, doesn't matter where she goes.
Okay. So, I would imagine, like there's a big empathic energy to her, I would imagine, and people are drawn to her for healing because empaths are healers in many, many different ways. So I would say that's one aspect of her gift. And then the other aspect with the prophetic dreams, those are two heavy hitter energy users of the gifts. And so the thing to do with that is to recognize when they're really working, to create boundaries with it. So if you don't mind being woken up at 3 to 6 to get these dreams, then you could become an active participant, write them down, write out what they are so that you kind of get it out and you can go back to your sleep, or ask more questions. Like you can work with it, or you can kind of ask them that that's not the right time for you and to come back a different time. So boundaries would be a big one. And then boundaries with your empathic gift too. And what I mean by that one is starting to discover what it is in that you want to do to help people in it. So if people come to you all the time and you find it really draining, then obviously that's not helping you. But if people are coming to you and gaining something from it, then you can start honing in on what is it that they're gaining and how can you grow that. And so maybe part of it is just opening yourself up to channel the right information that comes through you. And it doesn't mean you have to sit there with your eyes closed in a weird voice or anything. It just means recognizing the situation and just being like, okay, this person needs some healing. What is it they need to hear? And again, you become an active participant to let it move through. So I say all of that by saying the best thing you can do with your gifts is to start to recognize what they're showing you and then get interactive with spirit as to how you can use it better. What do I need to know? These are my boundaries. How else do we work it? And just be asking questions. Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I agree. And like you said, write it down and then go back to sleep, which I don't do. I stay awake all night thinking about it, saying, I won't forget, I won't forget, I won't forget.
Yeah, it's true.
However, the other night on one of my journeys, the universe was adamant that I write down. message, it was one tiny little message, choose B.
Oh.
Yeah, I have no clue what it means. None.
Like option B?
That's what I gather.
Yeah.
Because it was just choose and the letter B.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I guess now you're going to have to tell us when that comes up, what B ended
No
up being.
kidding. Yeah. So Barbara said, thank you. And Christine said, when you feel or pick up on energy, it makes sense to her. It's telepathy, picking it up before it's said. Absolutely it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're already 30 minutes in. This went by so quickly.
Totally did. Maybe we astral traveled and jumped time in it too, right? Like
maybe. We took all of our viewers on a trip with us. How incredible would that be?
It's fantastic.
I would love to do that. Mm-hmm. So in closing, do you have anything to leave our viewers with?
Yes. Okay. So the energies on the planet right now are very whirly and changing and moving fast. The key word, 2 keywords I'm going to leave you with is we are in such a phase of movement right now, meaning for a lot of you, you might find stuff is moving in your life, whether that's old triggers coming up to be released or new directions coming forward. Be okay with being in the phase of movement. And the second one is be very conscious in your choices in the movement, because no matter what is moving in your life, you always have a choice as to what you're going to do with it, how you're going to respond, what you're going to do. So acknowledge the movement and get very specific about what you choose. What do you want to create? Because movement allows manifestation. And when you pair that with choice, you create something that is of benefit to you.
Absolutely. Beautifully put.
That's the guides, honestly.
So I would like to invite you to leave your contact info in the comments for our viewers if they want to reach out to you or if they have any questions or anything like that.
Absolutely.
And I would like to thank Melissa from Hayward Eclectic for my lovely tea that I drink during Tea with the Universe. Tonight I'm drinking like a sleepy time tea, just so I have a better sleep at night. Yeah. I tend to be awake a lot, traveling and
I can imagine.
Yeah, so I like sleep aids sometimes. And if any of our viewers watching would like to be a guest on Tea with the Universe, please reach out. I'm always, always, always looking for guests. Everyone has a story to share, and everyone has a story that someone needs to hear. So I always encourage people. I get a lot of people don't want to hear what I have to say. That's not true. Everyone has a story to share. So there's that. I never remember what to say at the end. Tune in on Thursday for my live energy readings at 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. And thank you, Ginette, for being here. I'm very honored to have you here.
Yeah, it was great.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I know you could be anywhere this evening. You chose to be here with me, and I am grateful for that, and I am grateful for you. And I will see everyone next time. Namaste.